Hey guys, in today's video, we're going to be talking about the difference in the narratives of younger women versus older women. And we're also going to look at how you can apply that in your own life to be able to create emotionally relevant and compelling experiences for both of you. So, your narrative is how you portray yourself, it's the communication you use that expresses your personality, your story, your values, all the things that matter to you. And an emotionally relevant interaction is, for example, a date. It's any interaction where you have with her that resonates on an emotional level. And a date is just a specific type of interaction. So a lot of the common dating advice that we hear about today, it's a lot of tactics. It's a lot of do specific things. Do this, do that, get the result. And a lot of it is missing what I consider to be the heart of what dating and relationships actually is, and that is context. It doesn't provide context. It doesn't provide any relevance to the situation in which it should be used. And that to me is the most important thing, because the reality is you could do the wrong thing 100 times and still get a positive result. So it's the context that I want to focus on today. But before we talk about women and their narratives, I want to bring the attention of the video to you. I want you to think back to a time in your childhood, or maybe not that long ago, when you had a particular view of people that were perhaps older than you or particular status. And I want you to think about how your perspective on these people have changed. An example that I like to use is teachers. So when you're in elementary school or high school or even professors in college, you look up to these teachers as people who are at a higher level than you. They know more than you. They're so wise. They're people that should be looked up to and followed and listened to and obeyed. But the reality is, at some point in your life, your perspective changes and you realize that all these people that you looked up to, they're really just people. This is something that's particularly relevant to me, at least, because I have a number of friends that are teachers, and it's quite interesting to hear stories of them teaching classes while they're hungover. Maybe they had, one too many margaritas the night before or something along those lines. Um, but it gives you perspective, because the teachers that you held in high regard when you were a child, suddenly they seem much more human now. They seem much more flawed. And it's that change in perspective that I want to call out today. So women are no different. Women also have differences in perspectives. Younger women have a very different perspective than older women. You need to understand that younger women and older women view the world differently, and you need to understand your audience. You need to understand the person that you're dealing with if you're going to create something that resonates with them, that they feel connected with you, that you understand them better than most other people. Younger women, for instance, have a much more idealized view of the world. Why? Because everything is new. They're younger. Everything is novel. There's things about the world that they haven't discovered yet. And so things like love, passion, sex, all these things have a sense of newness and novelty to it that they want to experience. And it's up to you to be able to provide that experience. They tend to want the love story or that whirlwind crazy adventure of love, passion, and sex that just leads to an amazing time. It's much more about the context and the story than it is about necessarily the individuals, right? Women of that age tend to be more in love with being in love, for instance. It's much more about the context and the story and the narrative in which the experience is being had. So therefore, a lot of these things need to just happen. It needs to feel to her like everything is proceeding in a way that is normal and natural, and that the outcome is not predetermined. Now, this is the case for all women, but specifically for younger women, it's important to break out more of the narrative side of things. So, for instance, if you're meeting women at a bar, younger women might need a little bit more of context, a little bit more narrative story between the two of you. And this can be accomplished in a lot of different ways. For example, you could use something like How about you come with me? We'll go play a game over here. We'll go play pinball together. We'll go play pool. We'll go grab a drink over at the back bar. Hey, let's go outside. Hey, my friends are over here, right? Oh, hey, you know what? I got to run back to my place and grab a shirt real quick. Come with me, and then we'll come right back. This works pretty well if you live down the road, right? Or it could be something as simple as, hey, I'm having an after party with some friends, right? But the key is, like, you actually have to have a fucking party. You can't just have an after party and nobody's there, right? That's weird, and it's incongruent with the context that you're providing. So, particularly with younger women, you need to focus more on congruence of the story that you're building around. Now, is this the case all the time? Absolutely not. I always speak in generalizations and I never give hard rules. There are absolutely moments when I have been able to take young women home and none of this was really necessary. But it's important to know this and at least be prepared for it. That in general, younger women tend to need a bit more context. Now, older women tend to be more realistic about the world. Why? Because they've been around the block. They've heard all the stories. They know what it's like. There isn't as much newness and as much novelty that they need to experience. Generally, with older women, it has more to do with the compatibility of you and her as a person, so much as it is the story that you're creating together. Again, a generalization only, but I have found this in general to be true. Older women still want those stories. They understand that the practicality of relationships and sex kind of get in the way, and they're more realistic about the outcomes. And that a lot of times there really isn't a story. Sometimes you just fuck. This means that, at least in my experience, that older women are much more likely to be down to go with you for sex. Now, it is critically important that the sex is not a foregone conclusion. It is absolutely imperative that you as a man provide her with a narrative that is at least strong enough that it gives her justification to say no without actually saying no. And a lot of that comes down to the feminine nature of not wanting to necessarily be bold and direct and to sort of nudge things and guide things without hurting people's feelings or stepping on people's toes, so to speak. So it's up to you to create that context. You need to give her the ability to say no or not yet and provide that justification. So there are definitely similarities between younger women and older women, at least in the respect that there needs to be some story and some narrative that's built between the two of them. So let's talk about that now. The experience that is had by the two of you needs to be emotionally relevant to the things that matter to her. So you need to at least understand who she is and what it is that she's looking for at this point in her life. Maybe she's looking for a relationship, or maybe she's just looking for sex, or maybe something in between. It's up to you to find that out and create the experience for her. There's no one size fits all. Creating this experience requires perspective. That is why I talked about the general differences between younger women and older women. This at least gives you some context so that you can begin forming a narrative that you can express to her and include her in that allows the two of you the opportunity to be able to bond. As I've always said, the mechanics of all relationships are the same, regardless of the duration, whether it's for an evening or it's for a lifetime. You need to understand that when interacting with younger women as an older guy, that younger women think you're really old. This is something that I found to be very interesting, especially as I get older, that I'm in my mid-30s. I can remember a time in my life where I had teachers and professors that were my age, but I was significantly younger than I am now. And I looked up to them with very high regard. You need to have that perspective as well. When you're interacting with younger women, you need to understand that she's going to hold you in much higher regard and much higher standards. This creates higher expectations. And as I've discussed previously, attraction is predicated, although not entirely based on, expectations. It's up to you to be able to meet them. Younger women will have more of an expectation for an older man to provide more story, more context behind their relationship, and to be able to provide ultimately more solutions to her objections. And fundamentally, that's the most important part because a woman's going to always have objections. Unlike a younger guy, once you're older, especially once you're past, say, 30, it is no longer acceptable for you to bumble your way into bed with a woman. It's more tolerable and it's more understandable if you're, say, younger and you and her are both maybe in college, right? Things aren't as smooth. You don't know as much, but she also doesn't expect as much out of you. Understand that because she holds you in higher regard because of your age, that you're going to be held to a higher standard in terms of providing a smooth and easy experience for her. Now, for you younger guys, you need to understand that older women are really going to regard you as a baby. And I've seen this time and time again. I've experienced it, in my own life. And now that I'm a bit older and I have some older female friends, I see it with them as well. And it's quite simple. But the science shows that your emotions haven't solidified yet. This makes you emotionally unclear. This tends to result in either bumbling, inconsistent, or indecisive behavior. So in your case, I recommend that you focus on telling a story to yourself, a story in which you are already successful. Why do I recommend this? Because it's a way of keeping you straight. It is the one thing that I did in my younger years, in my 20s, that really led to my success. I had a story in my mind of someone who was dramatically more successful than I actually was, and all I had to do was every day live up to that expectation. And the reality is this: all of the most successful seducers that I've ever met in my entire life are really just very, very good storytellers. They're masters of immersion. They tell stories that women get to live with them. These stories are rarely complicated, but they're emotionally relevant to her. So the stories vary depending on the context, and the context is predicated on the woman's desires. So if she's looking for a hookup, or she's looking for a relationship, or somewhere in between, the men that I see that are the most successful are the most able to deliver a narrative and a story that involves the two of them, that takes the two of them on a journey to the end that she desires. So if you want my help to help transform your dating life, I'll put details in the description. And I'm working on a lot more content just like this. So if you could like and subscribe, you'll get notified as soon as it comes out. Otherwise, I'll see you next time.